In the lush, mystical Kikuyu highlands, where ancient acacia trees guard ancestral secrets, a young woman named Wanjiru finds herself caught between love, tradition, and the weight of family honor. Despite being married off to an older man to settle her father's debt, Wanjiru's heart belongs to Kamau, a spirited young man from a rival clan. But her world unravels when she discovers she is carrying Kamau's child. As fear and shame threaten to consume her, Wanjiru must navigate the dangers of forbidden love and the harsh expectations of her community. Her choices could change her fate or seal it forever. Welcome to the quest for revenge. Wanjiru first crossed paths with Kamau during a vibrant village festival celebrating the harvest. The air was thick with the aroma of roasted maize, and the rhythmic beating of drums echoed through the night. As she danced under the stars, her eyes met Kamau's across the clearing. His warm smile and the spark in his eyes ignited something deep within her. That moment marked the beginning of a connection that felt both exhilarating and forbidden, as their families belonged to rival clans with a long-standing feud. Their romance blossomed in secret, fueled by the thrill of the unknown. They would meet in the shadows of the acacia trees, sharing whispered dreams and tender kisses. Wanjiru felt alive with Kamau by her side, and together they wove a tapestry of love that defied the constraints of their clans. Each stolen moment was a reminder of the beauty and danger of their relationship, as they crafted a world where nothing else mattered except their bond. However, the weight of tradition loomed over them like a dark cloud. As their feelings deepened, the fear of discovery gnawed at Wanjiru. The elders in their families had always emphasized the importance of loyalty to clan, and Wanjiru knew that their love could spell disaster. Kamau, too, felt the pressure. His father had begun arranging a marriage for him, believing it was time for his son to take on more responsibilities within their clan. The tension mounted as Kamau struggled to balance his duty to his family with his love for Wanjiru. As the harvest season approached, their secret meetings grew fraught with anxiety. One fateful evening, Kamau, torn between his feelings for Wanjiru and his impending arranged marriage, made a heartbreaking decision. He suggested they end their relationship to protect her from the wrath of their families. Wanjiru felt her heart shatter at his words, the fear of losing him colliding with the reality of their circumstances. They parted ways, leaving behind echoes of laughter and dreams now dashed against the rocks of tradition. In the days that followed, both Wanjiru and Kamau were plagued by regret. Wanjiru threw herself into her work, tending to the family farm, but her heart ached with every passing moment without him. Meanwhile, Kamau wrestled with his responsibilities, yet every time he heard her laughter from a distance or caught a glimpse of her in the village, the pain of their separation became unbearable. Their paths seemed destined to diverge, but fate had other plans. The climax of their story unfolded during a sudden storm that swept through the village, fierce and unrelenting. As Wanjiru sought shelter in the old granary, she was startled to find Kamau there, drenched and desperate. The power of nature mirrored the tempest within them. Rain poured through the cracks in the roof, soaking the ground beneath them. In that moment of vulnerability, the barriers they had erected crumbled away. Their eyes locked, and the world outside faded into insignificance. In the dark confines of the granary, they confronted the pain of their separation. Kamau confessed how deeply he had missed her, and Wanjiru revealed the torment she had endured in his absence. The storm outside raged on, but within the granary, their emotions swirled like the wind. They embraced, feeling the warmth of each other's bodies, igniting the passion that had been stifled for far too long. In that moment, they knew they couldn't deny their love any longer. As the storm subsided, leaving behind a fresh, clean world, Wanjiru and Kamau emerged from the granary hand in hand. Their relationship had weathered a storm, but now it was stronger than ever. They resolved to face the challenges of their families and the expectations of their clans together. This new beginning marked a turning point in their love story, one where they would fight for their right to be together, no matter the cost. With a determination forged in the depths of their trials, Wanjiru and Kamau ventured back into the village, ready to confront their families and the traditional norms that had tried to keep them apart. Their love had become a force of nature, powerful enough to challenge the tides of expectation. They were no longer mere children playing at romance, they had grown into partners willing to stand by each other, no matter the obstacles in their path. Through their journey, Wanjiru and Kamau learned that love, much like the storms of their land, could be tumultuous and fierce but also cleansing and renewing. Together, they prepared to fight for their love, armed with the strength of their convictions and the support of their community, ready to reshape the narrative of their families and clans. Wanjiru stood before her father, Mzee Njuguna, her heart racing from the joy of reconciling with Kamau. The warmth of their reunion still lingered, but as she gazed into her father's weathered face, a shadow crossed his features. Mzee Njuguna took a deep breath, his voice trembling as he spoke.
My daughter, there is something you must know. The elders have come to collect what is owed. I made a promise, one that binds us to the clan.
Father, what do you mean?
Tears filled Wanjiru's eyes as the reality of her father's words sank in.
But father, I love Kamau. We are.
Wanjiru, it is done. You must understand this is for our family's honor.
Mzee Njuguna's gaze hardened, and for a moment, the weight of his responsibilities seemed to eclipse his love for her. She felt a painful chasm open between them, the love she had always known now tinged with betrayal. Wanjiru's world shattered around her, and in that moment, both father and daughter were engulfed in a profound sadness, each bearing the burden of choices beyond their control. Mzee Njuguna's voice thundered through the room as he demanded. The intensity of his gaze bore down on Wanjiru, and a chill crept into her bones.
Who is this Kamau you speak of? Is he not from the neighboring clan? The very clan we have been at odds with?
Father, please listen.
Enough, Wanjiru. This is treachery. You will not see him again. It is forbidden.
The words struck her like a physical blow. Anguish twisted in her chest, and she felt tears threaten to spill over.
But I love him. You don't understand.
Love? You think love can defy our traditions? Wanjiru, this is about our family's honor.
With every word, Wanjiru felt her world crumble. In a whirlwind of despair, she fled from the house, her father's angry shouts fading behind her. The moonlight guided her as she ran through the familiar paths, the weight of her heartbreak propelling her forward. Reaching Aunt Shiro's home, she burst through the door, breathless and trembling. Auntie, please, I need you. Wanjiru collapsed into her aunt's arms, the dam breaking as sobs racked her body. In that moment of refuge, she realized she was caught between the love that filled her heart and the traditions threatening to tear her away from it. Meanwhile, Kamau stood before his father, his heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination.
Father, I can't marry the woman you chose for me. I'm in love with someone else.
His father's eyes narrowed, the storm brewing within them.
Who is this someone else that dares to challenge our family's honor?
Wanjiru Njuguna.
Kamau breathed, the name escaping his lips like a confession. The silence that followed was deafening, the air thick with tension. His father's face turned crimson, disbelief morphing into rage.
Is she not from that rival clan? Have you lost your mind? This is treason. You will not disgrace this family. I arranged this marriage for you for a reason.
I don't care about the arrangement. I love her.
Kamau shouted back, defiance igniting his spirit. With a growl, his father surged forward, shoving Kamau toward the door.
Get out. You will not bring shame upon this household.
Stumbling outside, Kamau felt the weight of his father's anger crash over him like a wave. He sprinted through the night, the cool air biting at his skin. The world felt blood, his mind racing with thoughts of Wanjiru. Finally reaching Mama Chade's home, he knocked frantically, his breath hitching with the weight of his emotions. She opened the door, concern etched on her face. As he stepped inside, the tears he had held back finally spilled over, and he knew he was lost in a battle much larger than love alone. Wanjiru sat on Aunt Shiro's worn sofa, the dim light casting shadows across her tear-streaked face. The comfort of her aunt's home had initially brought her solace, but now uncertainty swirled within her like a storm. Aunt Shiro, sensing her turmoil, settled beside her, concern etched in her features. "Wanjiru, my dear. What troubles you so?" Shiro asked gently, placing a comforting hand on Wanjiru's shoulder. Taking a deep breath, Wanjiru felt the weight of her secret spill forth.
I'm in love with Kamau. But my father wants me to marry Elder Njoya. To settle his debts. He doesn't understand. He thinks I can just let go of Kamau.
Aunt Shiro's expression shifted, her brows furrowing in disappointment. She shook her head, disbelief creeping into her voice. "Kamau? From the rival clan? Wanjiru, you know how this looks. Our families have been at odds for generations."
But Aunt Shiro, I love him. He makes me feel alive.
Tears welled in Wanjiru's eyes as she met her aunt's gaze, pleading for understanding. Aunt Shiro's voice softened, but her resolve remained firm. "You must think of your father and our family's honor. If you pursue this relationship, you'll only bring shame upon us all. Please, Wanjiru, accept your father's request for the sake of the family." Confusion swirled within her like a tempest, and Wanjiru buried her face in her hands, sobs escaping her. Torn between love and duty, she felt as if the ground had shifted beneath her, leaving her suspended in a chasm of despair. Kamau stood at the threshold of Mama Chade's modest home, his heart racing as he braced himself for what was sure to be another intense confrontation. The warmth from the hearth flickered against the walls, but it couldn't chase away the chill of betrayal that settled in his bones. Mama Chade met him with a keen gaze, arms crossed as she leaned against the doorway. "Kamau, what are you running from? You look like you've seen a ghost," she demanded, her voice laced with concern.
Not a ghost, auntie. I'm running from my father's wrath.
"What happened?" Mama Chade's expression hardened and she motioned for him to enter. Once inside, she gestured for him to sit.
I told him I love Wanjiru. I told him I can't marry the woman he picked for me. Auntie. He wants me to forget her. But I can't.
"You know her father will never accept this. Wanjiru is from the rival clan. You must understand the consequences." Aunt Chade sighed, shaking her head.
You're saying I should just give up? That I should accept a marriage to someone I don't love? For what? Family honor.
His voice rose with every word. Frustration spilling over, cracked with emotion. Disbelief etched on his face, felt a fresh wave of fury wash over him. "Yes. It's for the good of our family. Wanjiru is a mistake. You must see that," she insisted, her tone firm.
A mistake? You're all blind. This is my life. My choice. Why can't anyone understand that?
Kamau leaped to his feet, his heart pounding with rage. He stormed to the door, the weight of anger and confusion nearly overwhelming. Outside, the night air felt electric against his skin. He was torn between love and the suffocating expectations of family, feeling like a pawn in a game he never wanted to play. As the chill of the night seeped into his bones, Kamau stood at the edge of the door. The harshness of the world outside settling around him like a thick fog. He turned back to Mama Chage. Vulnerability replacing his earlier bravado.
Auntie, can I stay the night? I don't want to be out there. Not like this.
Her expression softened. And she nodded, gesturing for him to return inside. You can stay, Kamau. But you must think carefully about what you're doing. Once nestled beneath the warm blankets, the weight of his thoughts pressed heavily on him. He closed his eyes, but visions of Wanjiru danced in his mind. An audacious idea took root. What if they ran away together? Tomorrow, he would ask her to escape with him, to leave behind the suffocating expectations of their families. As hope flickered in his heart, Kamau drifted into a restless sleep, dreaming of freedom and love against all odds. Wanjiru lay in Aunt Shiro's small bed, the night enveloping her like a heavy blanket of despair. Tears had dried on her cheeks, but the ache in her heart remained. Betrayed by her father, her aunt, and the very traditions that had once provided comfort, she felt utterly alone. As she stared at the ceiling, the shadows danced in the flickering candlelight, mirroring the turmoil within her. Tomorrow, she resolved, she would meet Kamau and lay everything bare. She would tell him about her father's demands, her aunt's warnings, and the suffocating pressure that threatened to pull them apart. The thought of sharing her burden with him filled her with a sense of purpose. She would not allow fear to dictate her fate. Wanjiru closed her eyes, imagining Kamau's face, and a flicker of hope ignited within her. Together, they could find a way to confront the darkness that sought to tear them apart. The morning sun filtered through the leaves as Wanjiru and Kamau met at their secret place near the river, the familiar sound of water flowing a soothing backdrop to their tangled thoughts. Wanjiru's heart raced at the sight of Kamau, but the weight of their troubles soon overshadowed her joy.
Wanjiru, I can't believe your father wants to marry you off to that elder. How could he do that?
Kamau began. His voice strained. She looked down at the ground. Her heart heavy.
He thinks it's the only way to restore our family's honor. He doesn't care about my happiness.
This is insane. We can't let that happen. We have to get away from here.
Kamau's fists clenched in frustration. Wanjiru felt a spark of hope at his words but quickly sobered.
But where would we go? What if they find us?
We can head to the mountains. There are villages far away. And we could start afresh.
But how will we survive? We have no money, no resources. I've thought about that. I don't want to be a burden to you. I can't let you risk everything for me.
Kamau stepped closer. Desperation etched on his face. He shook his head. Determination flickering in his eyes. Tears welled in Wanjiru's eyes as she felt the weight of their reality.
Wanjiru, you're not a burden. I'd rather face the unknown with you than live a life without you. But we need a plan.
We can gather supplies tonight. But what if our families come looking for us?
Wanjiru doubtful. Her heart aching with uncertainty. Silence enveloped them. The gravity of their situation pressing down like a heavy stone. In that moment, both understood the enormity of their choice, the thrill of love intertwined with the fear of losing everything. They were standing on the precipice of a new life, but the abyss beneath felt as daunting as the mountains ahead. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue over the river, Wanjiru and Kamau parted ways, their hearts heavy but resolute. Unbeknownst to them, hidden among the thick brush, a shadowy figure listened intently to every word they exchanged. The spy, a wiry man named Juma, had been hired by Elder Njoya to keep a close watch on Wanjiru, tracking her movements and uncovering any potential threats to the elder's ambitions. After the young lovers disappeared into the fading light, Juma wasted no time. He hurried back to the elder's compound. A dark cloud of urgency surrounding him. Elder Njoya was in his chambers, seated behind a large wooden desk, his face illuminated by the flickering flame of a single lamp. The air was thick with the scent of herbs and incense, meant to ward off ill omens.
Elder, I have news.
Juma the spy announced, stepping into the room with a bow. He swallowed hard, aware of the significance of his information. Njoya looked up, his expression steely.
Speak quickly, Juma. I have little patience for delays.
Wanjiru and Kamau planned to run away. I overheard them by the river. They discussed rejecting your proposal and pretending to seek their parents' counsel for a week.
They dare to defy me. What foolishness. Wanjiru is a pawn in my game, and Kamau is nothing but a reckless boy. What are they thinking? They believe they can escape from me. They think they have time to plot their freedom.
A vein throbbed in Njoya's temple, his face reddening with fury. Juma shifted uncomfortably under the elder's piercing gaze. Njoya leaned forward, his eyes narrowing dangerously.
They won't have time at all. I will not let this insolence slide. If they want to play games, I'll make the rules.
What will you do?
Njoya's mind raced with possibilities, his anger morphing into cold calculation. Juma's heart raced at the elder's reaction.
We cannot let them feel secure. If they think they have a week, they will grow bold. No. We must act swiftly and decisively. I need to send a message to Mzee Njuguna.
Message?
Yes. I will confront Mzee Njuguna about the debts he owes me. But I will do so without revealing my knowledge of Wanjiru's plans. I will twist the knife. Make him feel the pressure. It will be clear that his daughter is not safe if he continues to defy my will.
Njoya hissed, his voice low and menacing. Juma questioned, confusion evident on his face. A wicked smile crept across Njoya's face as he plotted his course of action.
Juma, prepare my horse. We ride at dawn to confront that fool. He needs to understand that his daughter's future hangs by a thread. And I will not tolerate any further disrespect.
Juma nodded, a mix of admiration and fear washing over him. He knew well that crossing Elder Njoya meant inviting danger. But he also recognized the power that came with being the elder's right hand. As night fell over the village, Kamau and Wanjiru lay restless in their separate homes, unaware of the storm brewing in the shadows. Each dreamt of a future together. But that future was now threatened by forces they couldn't see. Meanwhile, Njoya's mind churned with plans, determined to eliminate the obstacles in his path. The elder understood that power lay not just in wealth, but in the fear he could instill in others. With a sinister smile, he prepared for the confrontation that would send ripples through both families. A prelude to a battle of wills that would change their lives forever. As dawn broke over the Kikuyu highlands, a thick mist clung to the ground, shrouding the village in an eerie silence. Elder Njoya mounted his horse, determination coursing through him like wildfire. He could feel the weight of his intentions pressing down on him, igniting a fiery anger within. Today, he would confront Mzee Njuguna and make it clear that defiance would not be tolerated. Riding through the village, he attracted wary glances from the villagers, who sensed the storm brewing within him. The path to Njuguna's homestead felt longer than usual, the anticipation gnawing at his insides. Finally, he reached the compound, dismounting with a swift, decisive motion. He strode towards the door, the wooden beams creaking under the weight of his fury.
Mzee Njuguna, come out. We need to talk.
Njoya bellowed, his voice echoing through the stillness. Mzee Njuguna emerged, his expression shifting from surprise to wariness as he took in the sight of the elder. His presence commanding and filled with ominous energy.
Elder Njoya, what brings you here unannounced? I'm here to discuss your daughter Wanjiru. It seems she has taken a liking to a boy from a rival clan. And I will not allow this foolishness to continue.
Njoya stepped closer, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. A flicker of concern crossed Njuguna's face.
What do you mean? Wanjiru is a good girl. She. Good, you say? Your ignorance will be your downfall, Mzee. If you do not control her, I will have no choice but to ensure she learns the consequences of her actions. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Njoya interrupted, his eyes blazing with anger. His tone dripped with menace, and Njuguna could feel the threat hanging heavy in the air.
You wouldn't dare to. I dare whatever it takes to protect my interests. You owe me a debt, and I will not let your daughter's rebellious spirit jeopardize my standing. Consider this your warning.
Njoya stepped forward, invading Njuguna's personal space, his voice cold and cutting. With that, he turned on his heel and strode away, leaving Mzee Njuguna trembling with a mixture of fear and anger. The elder's words hung in the air, a sinister promise that echoed ominously in the depths of Njuguna's mind. As Njoya mounted his horse and rode away, the village felt the tremors of impending chaos. The peace of the highlands shattered by a conflict that threatened to engulf them all. Elder Njoya leaned against the polished mahogany of his study, the room exuding an air of opulence adorned with fine art and exotic fabrics. The flickering light of an oil lamp cast long shadows on the walls, framing his sharp features with an ominous glow. The deal he had orchestrated for the 100-acre property, a sprawling expanse that included a beautiful house, thriving fields, and prize livestock, that had been meticulously planned. Tonight, it would culminate in a triumph that would further solidify his power. Earlier that day, he had met with the property seller, a frail but honest man named Mzee Kiriga. They had shaken hands over a hefty sum, and Njoya had promised to pay in cash the following morning. However, a cunning smile crept across Njoya's lips as he recalled his true intentions. The seller would never see that money. He would lose everything before the sun rose again. As night enveloped the highlands, Njoya set his plan into motion. He had recruited a group of ruthless criminals known for their violence and cunning. With a few whispered words and promises of a cut from the loot, he had secured their allegiance. They were waiting for him, lurking in the shadows, ready to execute his twisted vision.
Just a friendly visit. I wanted to ensure you were ready for the big move tomorrow.
Under the guise of a friendly neighbor, Njoya arrived at Mzee Kiriga's homestead just after dusk, faking a smile and shaking his hand. The old man smiled, oblivious to the darkness behind Njoya's smile.
Thank you, Elder. It means a lot.
As they shared casual conversation, the sun dipped below the horizon, and shadows lengthened ominously. Njoya took his time, savoring the old man's trust, until he saw the signal from outside. The flickering torchlight that signaled his accomplices were in position.
I should let you rest. Big day tomorrow.
With a final toast, Njoya stood, feigning sincerity. As Mzee Kiriga turned to set down the bottle, the door burst open. A group of masked men rushed in, brandishing weapons, their eyes wild with greed and malice. One growled, pushing Njoya aside. Mzee Kiriga's face drained of color as he stumbled backward, eyes wide with horror.
Elder Njoya, what's this?
Mzee Kiriga gasped, confusion and betrayal mingling in his voice. Njoya took a step back, his facade dropping away as he reveled in the chaos he had unleashed. A wicked grin spreading across his face.
You should have read the fine print. This is a hostile takeover. Get the money.
The criminals swiftly seized the old man, forcing him to the ground, while others ransacked the house, tossing furniture aside in search of cash and valuables. Mzee Kiriga's terrified pleas echoed through the halls, but Njoya remained unfazed, basking in the moment.
Please. I have my family.
The old man cried, but his words were drowned out by the sounds of shattering glass and creaking wood, as the thieves ripped the house apart. With the deed already signed earlier that day, Njoya watched as his henchmen piled cash and valuables into bags, laughing as they took everything Mzee Kiriga owned. The old man's dream had turned into a nightmare, his life's work slipping through his fingers. Just as quickly as they had arrived, the criminals began to retreat, their bags heavy with stolen goods. Njoya, with a mock gesture of sympathy, leaned down close to Mzee Kiriga and whispered,
Don't worry. You can find a new home in the shadows of your old one.
In the following moments, the criminals disappeared into the night, leaving behind only the sound of Mzee Kiriga's anguished sobs and the flickering lantern light that struggled to illuminate the remnants of shattered dreams. Njoya smirked, knowing that he would receive his cut from the criminals. 10% of the haul, further lining his pockets. As he walked away from the now darkened house, Njoya felt the thrill of victory surge within him. Wealth gained from deceit tasted sweeter than any honest labor. The old man was just another pawn in his relentless pursuit of power. And with each acquisition, Njoya's grip on the land and its people tightened, paving the way for his dominion over all. That very night, as the dust settled, Njoya counted his riches with a sinister grin. He would take back what was rightfully his investment, minus a small cut for the criminals who had done his dirty work. 10% for your trouble, he smirked, handing over a meager sum to the thugs who had executed his plan flawlessly. In the world of Elder Njoya, betrayal was not just a tactic. It was an art form, with every transaction steeped in darkness. He tightened his grip on the land and its people, ensuring that his empire thrived on the ruins of trust and integrity. The beautiful property was now a testament to his ruthless ambition, a dark jewel in the crown of a man who would stop at nothing to satiate his greed. In the heart of the Kikuyu Highlands, where the soil was once rich with promise, Mzee Njuguna worked tirelessly to provide for his family. He had borrowed a substantial sum from Elder Njoya, a figure whose charm masked a treacherous heart. The money was meant for fertilizers, seeds, and plowing equipment. For his 50-acre land, an investment in hope, in life in the future. But unbeknownst to Mzee Njuguna, the elder harbored a dark scheme. After the planting was done, he unleashed a band of criminals to poison Njuguna's farm. As the sun rose over the fields, the vibrant seedlings, once brimming with life, withered under a toxic haze. Days turned into weeks, and the land that should have thrived lay barren and desolate. Now with the harvest season gone and the loan due, Mzee Njuguna found himself ensnared in a web of debt and despair. Standing before Elder Njoya, the reality hit him like a thunderclap. Njoya's voice dripped with condescension as he demanded payment, a cruel smile playing on his lips.
You owe me. Your crops have failed, and you have no money to repay your debt. Therefore, I require Wanjiru's hand in marriage as full payment. She will serve as a bond between our families, a way to restore honor.
In that moment, Mzee Njuguna felt the ground crumble beneath him. His daughter, his pride and joy was being battered away like livestock. The weight of betrayal hung heavily in the air, and despair clawed at his heart. Thursday, in a game of power and deceit, Wanjiru's future was drawn into the dark machinations of Elder Njoya, and the lives of both families teetered on the brink of destruction. Wanjiru sat up in her bed, the night heavy on her heart. She had witnessed Elder Njoya threaten her father, Mzee Njuguna. Fear gripped her as she realized that if she ran away with Kamau, her father would lose everything he had worked so hard for. The farm, the land, her home, everything was at stake, including her inheritance. After a long night of tossing and turning, Wanjiru made a decision. She would stay and marry Elder Njoya, but she would do it on her own terms. She would gather her strength and plan for revenge against the man who had brought so much pain to her family.
Father, I've thought a lot about what happened last night. I have decided to marry Elder Njoya.
The next morning, Wanjiru approached her father with a heavy heart, her voice steady but soft. Mzee Njuguna's eyes widened in shock. Confusion etched on his face.
Wanjiru, you can't mean that. You would choose him over your happiness.
Wanjiru took a deep breath, her resolve shining through. Looking her father in the eye,
I have a plan. Father, I suspect foul play in the loan you took from him. If I marry the elder, I can uncover the truth from within. I will find a way to protect our family. Just trust me. I will not let you lose everything. I will turn this around.
A day later, near the river, Kamau waited for Wanjiru, his heart filled with hope. But when he saw her approach, something felt different. Without saying a word, Wanjiru grabbed his hand and pulled him away, her grip tight and urgent. They reached an open field, away from prying eyes. Wanjiru turned to Kamau, her expression serious. She explained the confrontation she had witnessed between her father and Elder Njoya.
Listen to me. I have to tell you everything. Kamau, the elder threatened my father. If I run away with you, we will lose everything. I suspect the elder has a spy watching me. I have to marry him for our family's sake. It's the only way to protect my father.
Kamau's heart sank as he listened. He pleaded, desperation creeping into his voice.
But what about us? You can't be serious. You're choosing him over our love.
I've made my decision. I have to do this.
Kamau felt a wave of sadness wash over him. Wanjiru's eyes filled with tears. But she remained firm. Heartbroken, Kamau stepped back, anger rising within him.
You're giving up on us? Wanjiru, how can you do this? Tell me you're joking.
I am sorry. I have to think about my family. Please try to understand my situation. Kamau. I beg you please.
With a heavy heart, Kamau turned and walked away. Each step filled with rage and sorrow. The love they had shared felt shattered, leaving Wanjiru standing alone in the field, torn between duty and her love for Kamau. She knew her choice would change everything. But deep inside, she held on to hope that one day, she could make things right. That evening, Elder Njoya arrived at Mzee Njuguna's home, a dark cloud of threats looming over him. He was ready to remind them of the power he held. But as he approached, he found both Njuguna and Wanjiru waiting for him at the doorway. Wanjiru greeted him with a bright smile, a mix of warmth and cunning that puzzled the elder. Her voice sweet but firm. Njoya raised an eyebrow. Curiosity piqued.
Elder Njoya. Welcome. What can we do for you, sir?
Wanjiru, why are you still meeting with that boy from the rival clan? I thought you were done with him.
We had a breakup meeting. It's all over between us. I will marry you.
A flicker of happiness crossed Njoya's face. But Wanjiru wasn't finished. Her voice steady.
But I have conditions. First, you must pay my father the full dowry according to Kikuyu customs. And I want a large sum of money to help him continue farming. But it should not be alone.
And what else?
Njoya's eyes narrowed, intrigued yet wary. Wanjiru took a deep breath. Standing tall, Elder Njoya stared at her, a mix of surprise and contemplation, her gaze unwavering.
During the wedding ceremony, before you declare me your wife, you must publicly write off my father's debt. No negotiations. I am asking for what is right. This is the only way I will agree to marry you.
You are asking a lot, Wanjiru.
In that moment, Wanjiru stood her ground, ready to take control of her fate. The game had changed, and she was determined to protect her family, using her wits to turn the tide against the elder, who had once threatened everything she held dear. Elder Njoya stood before Wanjiru, captivated by her beauty and intelligence. He took a moment to think, weighing her words carefully. Finally, he nodded, accepting her terms. But doubt lingered in his mind.
Wanjiru, are you truly sincere about this? You are so close to that boy from the rival clan.
I am committed to this decision. Elder Njoya, I will marry you, and I will make it work. This is what I want.
Wanjiru smiled confidently. With her confirmation, the deal was sealed. Njoya felt a rush of excitement, envisioning the power and status that would come with marrying Wanjiru. He believed he had finally secured the bride he desired. The next day, Njoya wasted no time. He quickly organized the funds needed for Mzee Njuguna, requested a detailed list of everything required for the dowry ceremony, and bride price. His excitement grew with every passing moment. Picturing the wedding day, and the public declaration of his claim over Wanjiru. Meanwhile, Wanjiru prepared herself for the unfolding plan, knowing that every step she took brought her closer to her ultimate goal. With her mind sharp and her heart focused, she was ready to play the long game, ensuring that both her family and her future would be secure. In the rival clan, Kamau sat alone under a fig tree, his knees pulled tightly to his chest. His face was gloomy, lost in deep thought. The day felt heavy, each minute dragging on, as he replayed the events with Wanjiru over and over in his mind. And Chage approached. her expression serious. Kamau, you need to tell me what happened. Explain it at once. With a heavy heart, Kamau shared everything about Wanjiru's arranged marriage with Elder Njoya, the threats her father faced, and their painful breakup.
She chose him. Aunt Chej. It's over between us.
Good. This means you can finally move on. The bride your father chose for you is a much better match. You deserve someone who will be loyal. To Kamau's surprise, Aunt Chej smiled. Kamau felt a mix of emotions, but anger soon overtook him. That evening, as darkness fell, he began to devise a plan for revenge against Wanjiru for the emotional betrayal he felt. He would meet with her again, pretending to be a friend. I'll ask her to stay friends, he thought, just in case things change in the future. But deep down, he had darker intentions. He imagined bedding her, getting her pregnant, and then disappearing, leaving her and the baby behind. Kamau was consumed by his plan, convinced that this was the way to reclaim his pride and make Wanjiru feel the pain he was enduring. In his heart, he believed this would be his only chance to turn the tables, even if it meant embracing betrayal himself. After 2 days of longing and heartache, Kamau finally managed to meet with Wanjiru in a secret spot. He pleaded for her forgiveness. "I still love you," he said, desperation in his voice. Wanjiru felt the same, and they both agreed that they wanted to be together again, even if they had to meet secretly for now. Three days before the wedding, Wanjiru's bride price was paid in full, and her father, Mzee Njuguna, received the funds to save the farm. Everything seemed to be going well, just as Wanjiru had planned. On the wedding day, Wanjiru stood before Elder Njoya and said, "I do," just after he announced the cancellation of her father's debt to everyone present. The guests cheered, but deep inside, Wanjiru felt a conflict brewing that evening. As the celebrations continued, Wanjiru and Kamau met in secret behind a cannery. Their emotions took over, and they became intimate, rekindling the passion they had once shared. Weeks later, Wanjiru began to feel discomfort in her body. She hadn't let Elder Njoya touch her since the wedding, claiming she had stomach cramps. Frustrated, the elder insisted on a medical examination. The results shocked both Wanjiru and Elder Njoya. She was pregnant. The elder's face turned dark with anger and disappointment. He demanded that Wanjiru keep the pregnancy a secret, not even telling her father.
This cannot be happening. We have not even consummated our marriage. I need time to figure this out. We need to deal with this pregnancy and Kamau once and for all.
In that moment, Wanjiru knew she was trapped in a web of lies and danger. The life she had imagined was slipping away, replaced by a storm of secrets and consequences that threatened to consume them all. Wanjiru wasted no time. She quickly wrote a letter to Kamau, warning him about Elder Njoya's deadly plans. "You must disappear," she pleaded in her letter. "Go into hiding for your safety." Since her husband had assigned 3 men to watch her around the clock, Wanjiru arranged for a trusted friend to deliver the letter. The risk was high, but she knew Kamau's life depended on it. When Kamau received Wanjiru's letter, panic surged through him. He knew he had to leave at once, lying to Aunt Chej. He said he had found a well-paying job as a farm manager in a distant village. With a heavy heart, he packed his belongings and left, not looking back. Meanwhile, Elder Njoya had made up his mind to eliminate Kamau and keep Wanjiru's child. He believed that sparing the child would prevent the wrath of the ancestors, fearing that the death of the unborn could bring a curse upon him. When he learned that Kamau had left for the faraway village, he felt a wave of relief wash over him, thinking the threat was gone. Deep in the lush forests near Mount Kenya, Kamau moved silently among the trees, his heart racing with determination. He had enrolled in a militia group. He could hear the sounds of training in the distance, men shouting commands, the thud of feet hitting the ground. Kamau was ready to embrace the fight, to learn everything he needed to reclaim his family and confront the elder. Little did Elder Njoya know that Kamau was not gone for good. He was preparing for a battle, driven by love and a fierce desire to protect what was his. As the tension mounted, the stage was set for a showdown that would change everything. Training hard every day to prepare for what lay ahead. The forest was alive with sounds, the rustle of leaves, the distant calls of birds. But Kamau's focus was unshakable. As he navigated through the thick underbrush, he recalled Wanjiru's warning and the love they once shared. "I will come back for you and our child," he whispered to himself, pushing forward through the dense foliage. Months passed, and Wanjiru gave birth to a son, the elder claiming the child as his own. In the village, there were no celebrations. Elder Njoya had turned the once vibrant community into his personal treasury, collecting taxes from every household, justifying it as a protection fund. As he walked through the village, Elder Njoya felt a twinge of disappointment that no one congratulated him on becoming a father. But he dismissed the feeling, knowing that no one could uncover the truth behind his deceit. 8 months later, Kamau had risen to the rank of senior sergeant, preparing to exact his revenge with a group of loyal comrades. Elder Njoya had become even more ruthless, claiming vast amounts of land and nearly bringing the village to its knees. He moved recklessly now, having cut down on his bodyguards, believing himself untouchable. One day, as Njoya traveled to Agiri, with 3 bodyguards riding alongside him, they were suddenly ambushed by 11 armed men, their eyes bloodshot with fury. The warriors brandished spears and machetes, closing in on the elder.
Who are you people? I can pay you well for your protection.
The leader of the warriors stepped forward, eyes glinting with resolve.
Step down from your horses. Now.
The warrior ordered. Njoya hesitated, panic creeping into his chest. But the warriors moved in closer, their intentions clear. Njoya stammered, but his words fell on deaf ears.
Lie down on the ground, with your stomachs on the dirt, and don't you dare make any movement.
The leader commanded, his voice unwavering. Njoya's bodyguards exchanged nervous glances before reluctantly obeying. The elder's heart raced as he realized the danger he was in. "Who are you?" he demanded again, his voice trembling. With a fierce glare, Kamau stepped forward, his presence striking fear into the heart of the elder.
"I am Kamau, the biological father of your wife's child."
In that moment, the truth hung in the air like a thick fog. The tables had turned, and Elder Njoya was face to face with the man he had wronged. Revenge was now within reach. And the reckoning had begun. The warriors frog-marched Eldanjoya and his 3 bodyguards deep into the forest. Far from the safety of their homes, they threw them into a pit inside a dark cave with no way out, leaving them as prisoners for the rest of their lives. Meanwhile, Kamau and his band of warriors, now numbering 40, set out for Eldanjoya's village. Their mission was clear: to arrest all of the elder's men and free the village from his tyrannical grip. As they approached the village, word spread of Komau's bravery and strength. The villagers rallied behind him, united against a common enemy. They recognized Komau as a hero, a symbol of hope and resilience. Upon his arrival, Kamau was greeted with cheers and celebrations. The 2 rival clans, once divided by conflict, stood together in solidarity. Mzee Njuguna, Wanjiru's father, welcomed Kamau with open arms, after realizing that he was the biological father of his grandson.
You are now my son-in-law, and I do acknowledge you and my daughter are truly meant to be together.
Mzee Njuguna declared, tears of joy in his eyes. Kamau felt a wave of warmth and acceptance wash over him. He had fought not just for revenge but for love and family. With the elders' reign of terror finally over, Kamau and Wanjiru stood hand in hand, ready to forge a new future together. The village that once trembled under fear now thrived with hope, laughter, and unity. In that moment, the bonds of love, family, and community triumphed over darkness. The past was behind them, and a brighter future awaited. Together, Kamau and Wanjiru would build a legacy of peace, ensuring that their son would grow up in a world free from fear. A world where love conquered all.